The NFL Draft, one of my favorite times of the year. How far it has come in all these years, from just being a little meeting in an office and not even having the owners present when they call in with their draft picks, like a conference call, and it turned into the big, you might as well say a festival that it is, a big event to rival even the Super Bowl. And if you ever thought you'd see that, I would say you were crazy. Welcome to the Final Score tonight, guys. This is going to be the first in a series of draft reviews. We're going to come back through the years and go over each draft. Talk about who got picked where and who should have been picked ahead of them. I mean, some of these picks that we're looking at tonight are, hindsight's 20/20. But some of these picks I'm looking at, especially in this first round, oh my gosh, what could have been different with some of these teams? Hall of Fame players going late in rounds. This is it's amazing what some teams could have had and didn't have. As always, we're here tonight on the Final Score. We're recording tonight, so this will not be live. But got my good friend Lynn Bryant, the guy that helped me out with the top 10 Washington Redskins, back again. We had a good response to our Washington Redskins list, and welcome tonight, Lynn. Hope you're ready to go.
Thank you, Stevie. I'm ready. And just what you were saying, the NFL Draft now is a big event about picking where it's going to happen. I mean, it used to always happen in New York City, and now it's like, Philadelphia had it this year. It's going to Dallas this year. So it's a big event to go to different towns, and it's on multiple TV channels. I mean, like you said, it's huge.
Yeah, you got the NFL Network covering it. You had ESPN covering it. That's been that way for a while. But also you had Fox, and who was the other one? Fox covered it, simulcasted it. And
maybe ABC, or I don't know.
It was either ABC or NBC that covered it too, the second and third rounds. But God, it is come a long way. You look back at some of if you just type in on YouTube 1979 NFL Draft, all you'll see is Pete Rozelle announcing the picks in it looks like a little office room. And now to see, it's a big spectacle with guests, presenters. That's one of my favorite parts of the draft is the second round when they bring back old players or personalities from that team. I think the most famous would probably be Drew Pearson when he came up there for the Cowboys second round pick in Philadelphia, and the crowd.
Yeah.
Was it in Dallas?
I think that was in Philly. He got booed.
Yeah, and then David Akers comes back this year, the longtime Philadelphia Eagle kicker, and comes back this year and rubs it in on the Cowboys that the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And I think the best line I've heard in a long time was when Akers said, "The guys that are getting drafted tonight weren't even alive when y'all last won a Super Bowl." I mean, he really got them. He got them good. Let's get right down to it. This is going to be the 1983 draft. It was held at the Sheraton Hotel, like we said, in New York City. ESPN actually covered this. This was the early days of ESPN. Back then, you had 12 rounds. There was 335 total selections. The most selections anybody had, the New England Patriots had 19, and the fewest, the Saints had 5. And out of this draft, they had 7 Hall of Famers in this draft. So, definitely a loaded draft, and as many Hall of Famers as you had. You think about this first round, and I'm looking at this first round, Lynn, and there's a lot of stinkers up here in the first round, too. Guys I don't even remember, and that's bad for me.
No. I don't recognize the names either of some of these people, but this was a very big draft as we're about to get into.
Yeah, we're gonna start it right off. We'll start off with our number 1 pick, which was a very, very controversial pick. Baltimore Colts. Back then, it was the Baltimore Colts. Not a very good team. I'm not sure, but I think they went 0-16. Maybe that was the year they went 0-16, but it wasn't many wins. They had the first round pick, and they made no bones about who they were going to pick. It was John Elway out of Stanford. They had said that for months. Well, Elway doesn't want to play for the Baltimore Colts. That was one of the first ones I can remember. It may have been some before him that I can remember that threatened that he wasn't going to play football. There was actually a story. Elway also was a pretty good baseball player at Stanford and was actually threatened. He was offered a minor league baseball deal with the Yankees. And
George Steinbrenner was a huge fan of him, right. Yes.
Yeah, and he threatened that he was going to go play baseball if the Colts picked him. So, kind of forced the Colts' hands, and which he was taken first by the Colts. And you look at Elway's career, gosh, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game.
Deserving. Yeah, deserving. But speaking of the baseball part, George Steinbrenner wanted him so bad, but I'm not sure how good he was. I know he was good, but George Steinbrenner compared John Elway to be Mickey Mantle quality.
Yeah.
If you're a big baseball fan, Mickey Mantle, how great he was for the Yankees. So for George Steinbrenner to compare Elway to Mickey Mantle, he must have been something.
I'm wondering, because I think if he was that good, that more teams would have been knocking at his door, and there would have been a lot of... And I didn't hear a whole lot of talk back then, which you didn't have... I never had cable over here in the little metropolis, Alaska. I don't know when you got it in Rich Square, but...
Mid-'80s.
You didn't have the internet then. You didn't have ESPN. No. Pretty much all you had was weekend stuff with sports. So, you weren't going to hear as much about what was going on in the sports world, and people wanted.
He played in Stanford.
Yeah, he played in
the West Coast. So we never seen him on TV.
He was a West Coast guy, so you really weren't going to hear much about John Elway. But I'm just wondering if Steinbrenner wanted to get in the middle of something for that. The value of bringing tickets in for he got John Elway, who was a football player. He got him away from football and he got him to play baseball. But definitely made the right choice because they worked out a deal with Denver later on after he got drafted. He forced their hand.
It was well after the draft.
Yeah, well after the draft.
So during the draft, Stevie, I did find some interesting information. There were several people who were trying to make draft day deals with the Baltimore Colts. And some of this is going to surprise you. So here's the thing. The San Francisco 49ers floated the idea, and this is like heresy, of trading Joe Montana for John Elway. And Bill Walsh ended up stepping in and saying, no, we're not doing this. There's another one. The Oakland Raiders tried to do a 3-team trade for Howie Long to Chicago Bears and then draft picks to Baltimore. Here's one more. Danny White was part of a deal the Dallas Cowboys tried to get together. People were doing everything they could to try to get Elway.
Can you imagine Elway going to Dallas? That right there.
Or Joe Montana being traded.
Joe Montana. Later,
This is his younger years.
This is actually before the second Super Bowl he won. So he'd only won one Super Bowl in San Francisco because the following year, which was '84, was the year they beat Miami in the Super Bowl. So yeah, can't imagine that.
But the thing is, the Denver. I don't know who the owner was for Denver at the time. But they picked fourth, and he intentionally picked a guy that he knew the Baltimore Colts wanted at fourth, Chris Hinton, a guard from Northwestern.
Yeah.
So he took a shot in the dark, all right, I'm going to pick someone I think Baltimore may trade with. That is gutsy right there.
Yeah, that is.
The draft. You're picking someone you don't really need, but you're trying to get Elway. That's just crazy to me.
Can you imagine what would have happened in Denver if they had to keep Hinton? That would have set back, because at the time I think the quarterback for Denver was Craig Morton, and he was an old veteran. He was on his way out, so they would have had to look at a quarterback, later on, which you never know if Denver doesn't get Elway, and like you said, they were planning all along for this guy Hinton to be traded for Elway. So, you know what? That probably changes a lot of things the way they thinking the rest of the draft. They're thinking they're going to get Elway, so they don't draft a quarterback in the draft. And, if they don't get Elway, they're pretty much screwed.
Yeah, definitely.
Morton didn't last long out there. I know Elway, I think halfway through his rookie year, became the starter. I do remember a game he played against Pittsburgh that he was in there most of the time. I think Morton started and Elway came in. But 9 Pro Bowls. Elway went to 9 Pro Bowls. Finished with over 51,000 yards, 300 touchdowns, 226 interceptions, which, that's kind of bad. Actually caught a touchdown, rushed for 33 touchdowns, which is a lot. 2-time Super Bowl winner. And let's talk about the Super Bowl. We got 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, which is a record. And these quarterbacks went to 11 Super Bowls. How many they won?
What was their record, Stevie?
They were 2-9.
Yep.
And Elway was the only quarterback to win any. You had Elway.
They started 0-9. They started 0-9, and then Elway won those last 2.
Yep, because you got a big. I mean, we'll talk about some of the other quarterbacks later on. We'll get to them, but Elway was definitely the quarterback of this draft. There was another one that was close to him, but Elway, and you're always going to get the comparison with the one later in the draft. And there's a third that had a lot of success, but when he got to the big game, he didn't have a lot of success. And
so, Stevie, you mentioned they went to 11 Super Bowls, but this class also had some of the worst losses in Super Bowl history.
Oh yeah.
Are you ready for this? Elway lost 55-10 to San Francisco.
Right.
Eason, who we're going to talk about later, lost 46-10 to Chicago Bears. And then Jim Kelly, poor guy, went 0-4.
Right.
He lost 52-17 to Dallas. And they've had some horrible losses in the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah. I mean, you just remember Elway. You take away. Let's see.
The Redskins beat them 42-10.
The first 3 Super Bowls.
55-10.
Yep. Yeah, 55-10, 42-10. I think New York, the Giants beat them 39-20. So 40.
Yep.
He scored 40 points in 3 games, and the opponent scored. The lowest they scored was 39. I mean, not much success at all. And then he got the 2 against Green Bay and Atlanta. And of course, Atlanta, he retired after that Super Bowl, so he went out on top. But I was never. I respected Elway for what he did, but I was never a big Elway fan. I just couldn't get into him. But I think I look back at Brian Bosworth. He played at Oklahoma and played a couple years for Seattle, the linebacker, and he used to call Elway Mr. Ed. But he didn't like Elway at all. And but Elway was a great quarterback. No denying that. True Hall of Famer. But everybody you look at later years, Eli pulled the Elway. That's what they said. Eli pulled the Elway. Didn't want to go play for the Chargers, so he forced them to trade him to the Giants later on. So he pulled the Elway.
Well, Philip Rivers, right?
Yeah, and that's worked out. It's worked out for Eli. Rivers has had success, but just hadn't got to the big game. And so we'll see how that works. So they're getting into the twilight of their career too. Let's go to the second pick. This guy comes out of SMU, one of the best pure runners I ever saw. And I mean, for a big guy like he was, he could flat out run. And I mean, I remember you always see him with those goggles on and that big mouthpiece. We're talking about Eric Dickerson, who was picked by the Rams. Another Hall of Famer, running back, played till 1993. Actually, Dickerson set the record for most yards in the season, right, Lynn?
Right, he did until Emmitt Smith beat him. Right. But this pick was traded by Seattle. Seattle had the second pick,
right,
and they swapped with the Rams. And I don't know. I hope they got something good for that swap because Eric Dickerson was one of the best ever.
Well, I mean, if you look at the pick when they swap with him, Dickerson finishes up. We'll go ahead and talk about the pick they swapped, and evidently Seattle had their eyes on this guy. He's out of Penn State.
Mistake.
The first Kurt Warner, the running back, not the one that came to the Rams later on. But this is the running back out of Penn State. I remember him at Penn State because his senior year, they went to the Sugar Bowl and won the national championship. Beat beat the University of Georgia. Georgia had Herschel Walker. But yeah, they beat, and he was a big time running back in that game. But you know, you compare the stats. Okay, they swapped picks, the second and third pick. Warner ended up playing till 1990. Dickerson played till 93. Let's see, Pro Bowls.
So a big difference in yardage.
Dickerson had 6 Pro Bowls. Warner went to 3. So that's kind of, but when you get to the rushing yards, 13,259 for Dickerson, 6,844 for Warner. 90 touchdowns for Dickerson, 56 for Warner. He, you know, just doesn't make. I know Seattle kicks herself for that, and you know, who knows? Maybe the Rams traded up thinking they were going to get Dickerson, and Seattle had their eyes on Warner the whole time. But definitely one of those picks. What would have happened if Eric Dickerson ended up in Seattle? And
Seattle.
Really, Kurt Warner ended up playing with the Rams later on before his career was over. So kind of came full circle then.
One thing about Eric Dickerson, though, he played at Southern Methodist, and there's a great 30 by 30 on ESPN about how corrupt Southern Methodist was. Who was the other?
It was Craig James. Craig James, who went up. He played for New England.
He had 2 awesome running backs, and I remember this one quote, something by Eric Dickerson. Some other school was trying to get him, and they said, "We'll give you $30,000 to come to X school." He goes, "Look, you're not even close to what Southern Methodist is paying me." I mean, that is how corrupt they were. But he was a great running back, and you said the other guy was Craig who?
Craig James. He ended up playing for New England.
Craig, he was a great running back too.
Yeah. And that ended up costing SMU because they got the death penalty there for a while. Just got brought back a few years ago to be able to play football. So let's go on to pick number 4. We've already talked about Denver takes Chris Hinton. And
on purpose in order to trade, is what they say.
Expecting Baltimore to want to trade, which they did. Right. And Hinton, you know, he goes to 7 Pro Bowls, which is not, you know, he had a really good career. I mean, it lasted until 1995, 12 years. 7 Pro Bowls, man. You really can't complain about that. Yeah. I don't think they've got the best end of the deal, but considering that Elway didn't want to play there, they got a pretty good return on that.
Sure.
Yep. Now let's go to
better than guy number 5.
Number 5, yeah.
Never heard of him.
San Diego Chargers. Now, I do remember Billy Ray Smith. I think he wore number 54. San Diego Chargers pick him out of Arkansas. Played linebacker, played till 1992. No Pro Bowls. Let's see. He ended up with 26.5 sacks over a 9-year period and 15 interceptions, which is not bad, but he's not one of these guys. Not one of these guys that you think about when you think about linebackers in the NFL. I mean, come on now. It was not
exactly
Billy Ray Smith. You know, when you look at the guys that San Diego could have picked after this, you'll see why. Let's go to number 6, which was a good pick. Chicago Bears
Pro Bowler.
Yeah,
Pro Bowler.
Take Jimbo Covert, a tackle out of Pittsburgh.
Not the best Pittsburgh player in the draft.
No, he was not. But, you know, we'll get to that later. A lot of people know what you're talking about. 2 Pro Bowls. Was a member of the 85 or 86? 86 champions, Super Bowl champion Chicago Bears, who demolished New England in Super Bowl 46-10 with one of the quarterbacks that we'll talk about later on. Colbert was a member of the Super Bowl Shuffle crew. Everybody remembers the Super Bowl Shuffle. That started a trend where every sports team wanted to make a video and a rap song. So if you get a chance to, some of these people that don't know what I'm talking about, look up Chicago Bears Super Bowl Shuffle and just get ready to cringe a little bit, especially when Refrigerator Perry gets up there and sing.
Even Walter Payton is there. You know, Walter Payton.
Yeah. You know, and Jim McMahon was the big guy back then. Jim McMahon. A lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, great defense.
Yeah, one of the best defense. I won't put them above my Steelers, but one of the best defenses ever. You had just weapons everywhere with that. Now let's go to the next pick, which I think is what I consider the worst pick of the first round by far. And you made this
for pro though, because his college career, he lit it up with Penn State, and they won a national title in 1982.
Yeah,
and he even won the Davey O'Brien Award as best quarterback.
Yeah.
So college-wise, he was great.
But there is such a thing as a good college quarterback, and just a good college quarterback that doesn't transfer over to the pros, and that is Todd Blackledge, who gets picked 7th by the Kansas City Chiefs. From Penn State. Like we said, he won the national championship in the Davey O'Brien Award the previous season. Teammate of the third-round pick, Kurt Warner, so everybody had Penn State on their mind back then. Here's Blackledge's stats. Of course, no Pro Bowls. 5,000. He played till 89. And he went from team to team after, he didn't stay with Kansas City long. He was a journeyman, just like you said. 5,286 yards passing, 29 touchdowns, 38 interceptions. So
in 6 years?
So,
that's not good.
That's not good. That translates to a little over 4 touchdowns a year and 6 interceptions a year.
How many touchdowns do you say he threw in his career? How many?
29.
An average quarterback today throws that in a year.
Yeah, that's right. So that just tells you he didn't get a lot of playing time after the initial trial period with the Chiefs. But that was just think about what Kansas City could have picked, and like we said,
he was the second quarterback out of 6. So keep going. This is the second one.
2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks that got picked after Todd Blackledge.
Yep.
Blackledge ended up making a pretty good career being a college football commentator for ABC, and he had a much more success doing that than he did playing NFL football. That's for sure. Okay, pick number 8, the Philadelphia Eagles, and I have a hard time. I vaguely remember this guy. Didn't get much playing time that I remember. Michael Haddix. He was a running back out of Mississippi State. Do you remember much about this guy, Lynn?
He played for the Eagles and Packers, and Philly passed on a certain quarterback we'll name later, mainly because he could run a 4.540. They're kicking themselves now.
Wow.
We'll tell you who the other quarterback is later.
Haddix, his career ended in 1990. Rushed for 1,635 yards in his career. 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns and had 3 receiving touchdowns.
How did he play for 7 years without a thing? I mean, I commend him for that.
Yeah.
With those stats?
Yeah, he didn't get a lot of play.
That's below the Mendoza line.
Evidently, he didn't play a whole lot. He didn't get a lot of playing time. He was on the bench a lot.
8 seasons.
Go to number 9. Which was at that time,
right?
That time the Houston Oilers. Before we had the Oilers went to Tennessee and became the Titans, and now you had the Houston Texans. But the Houston Oilers take Hall of Fame guard Bruce Matthews out of USC, and this guy was probably
19 years, baby.
Yeah, one of the greatest guards to ever play the game. 19 years, like Lynn said, 14 Pro Bowls. And guys, I'm telling you, this is one of the toughest guys. The Matthews family is got a great bloodline through the NFL. Clay Matthews, his brother, and then you got Clay Matthews Jr., the current linebacker for the Green Bay Packers, and I think there's another Matthews out there, but I can't remember if it's Bruce's son that's playing right now or what. But He played
so long, Stevie. He played for the Houston Oilers and the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, he played when they were
years.
Houston Oilers. He played
Tennessee
Oilers and the Tennessee Titans. And you like to see a guy,
right.
He got to go to the Super Bowl. He was there in '99 when the Titans went to the Super Bowl.
1 yard short.
1 yard short. But you like to see a guy that's loyal like that, stays his whole career with one team like that. Bruce Matthews. Number 10. New York Giants, which, this pick, I remember him coming out
He was
of.
a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I remember him coming out of college. He was a consistent guy for the Giants. It was defensive back Terry Kennard, came from Clemson.
An ACC, yep.
Yep. He went to one Pro Bowl. He was there in '86 when they won the Super Bowl over the Broncos. 31 interceptions, which is not bad, for 7 years. But safeties, I guess, don't really get a lot of interceptions as much as you think. But
he was good.
I would not say this was a bad pick by the Giants because he served a purpose at the time, and he kind of, that defense was getting put together by the Giants. In 85 they started coming along, and in '86 they ended up winning the Super Bowl and set it up for years to come with the Giants. And he stayed there till 1990. So I don't remember. I don't remember him playing for anybody else for the Giants, but I think that was all he played for. Next one.
Another Pittsburgh player that they should have got a different Pittsburgh person, but go ahead.
Green Bay takes defensive back Tim Lewis. Now I'm wondering, and I haven't done my research on Tim Lewis. There was a coordinator floating around the NFL, and I actually think he was a coordinator at Pittsburgh for a while named Tim Lewis. I'm wondering if this was the same guy. But it is.
He's a coach as well, yeah.
16 interceptions. He played till, that's not too bad. I wonder if injuries kind of set him back because he only played 3 years. He retired in '80. He was out of the field.
Severe neck injury. He suffered a severe neck injury on Monday Night Football, Chicago Bears in the '86 season. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So that kind, you can't say what might have been because he's already had.
He coached for the Steelers. This is how you know him.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was the same one.
Defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
The Steelers.
16 interceptions in 3 seasons, or an injury season. You might as well say 2.5 seasons. That's not that bad. Tim Lewis could have been something if not for that neck injury. Buffalo, number 12, Tony Hunter, tight end out of Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. Oh boy, I bet they would. This is another one that could have. He only played 3 years.
Right. So, which is interesting, Buffalo picks 2 more picks later, and they get a much better pick. So it's just weird that these are switched.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing when you look at this. Tony Hunter, and who was the Buffalo pick above the Hall of Fame quarterback that's about to be picked? Tony Hunter.
There's a reason we'll talk about when we get to the 2 picks of maybe why they did this.
134 receptions, 1,501 yards and 9 touchdowns in 3 years. And that's not that bad for 3 years. 500 yards a year, 3 touchdowns. Not that bad for a tight end back then. 134 catches over 3 years. That's about 35. Well, let's see. No, that's not that bad. That's over 40, maybe 40.
For back then, too. I mean, we're more of a passing league now.
Yeah, you really didn't see tight ends get a lot of, unless you're Kellen Winslow.
Compared to today's numbers and Gronkowski and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Number 13, James Jones. Detroit Lions take James Jones, the fullback out of Florida, which was not a bad pick for them. This guy, he was around till 1992. No Pro Bowls, but he ended up, let's see,
rushing yards solid.
For a fullback, 3,626 yards rushing, 26 touchdowns, and caught 10 touchdowns. So I think he's...
That's good for a fullback, because they're blocking.
Fullbacks didn't get a lot of touches back then, especially. Unless you're... And you don't see it a whole lot unless your name's Mike Allstott or something like that nowadays. So let's get to number 14.
Okay, here's your Buffalo pick. Number 3.
Buffalo picks Jim Kelly, quarterback out of Miami, Florida. Hall of Fame quarterback. We all know who Jim Kelly is. We said, everybody's said prayers for Jim Kelly as he's gone through his multiple cancer ordeals. And we all understand, I saw last week he was declared cancer free. But look, talk about why you talk the reasons why they picked Hunter first.
Right. So this is why we think. So for one, Buffalo traded with Cleveland to get this pick back. But Jim Kelly was threatening not to play again. Yes, he had a lot of John Elway in him, but he was saying, I'm not going to play, I'm not going to play. And you know what? He actually stuck to his guns and didn't play and went to something called the USFL that lasted for a few years and played with the Houston Gamblers.
Oh, yeah.
And he was really good there. I don't know if he had the stats for the USFL, but he was a really good quarterback in the USFL.
Yeah.
And then after in '86, when they folded, which I believe you said his last year, he was on Donald Trump's
Yeah,
team, correct?
he was actually supposed to play the last year. If they hadn't folded, he was going to play on President Donald Trump, who had a team in the USFL, the New
Jersey something.
The New Jersey Generals. He was traded from Houston to the Generals, but it never happened because the USFL folded after they tried to sue the NFL, and they won the suit. How much did they get?
$1. But the biggest issue they had was they were successful when they were a summer league. They got a little too cocky, and they said, we're going to challenge the NFL in the fall. That was the biggest mistake they made. They were doing well. They had their niche in the summertime.
And I enjoyed the USFL when I was there. I remember I was I think it was the Philadelphia Stars that I pulled for back then. They went to the USFL title game. I think the first year they lost to Michigan. I can't remember what Michigan was, but I think they won the second year. And if you want to, I'll give YouTube more plugs. YouTube, look up USFL games. You can watch them right on there. There's a lot of USFL games. There's one guy that's got a whole channel with nothing but USFL games. It's really, really good to see. Unfortunately, I haven't found an XFL channel, which,
it's coming back.
The XFL is coming back. We hope it has better luck than last time. And it's an All-Star. I forgot what they call this other league that's coming, the All-America or something like that. But anyway, Jim Kelly.
Alliance football?
Yeah, something like that.
But Jim Kelly went to 4 straight Super Bowls. He's the only quarterback, the only team to go to 4 straight Super Bowls, right?
Yep, and lost every one of them.
Lost every one.
And got
one was the wide right.
20-19 with the Giants.
Yeah, that's the one they should have had. And then the Redskins beat them 1 year, and I think Dallas beat them 1 year.
Dallas beat them twice. Dallas beat them 2 years in a row.
Dallas beat them twice.
Yeah.
That was with Leon Lett, right?
The Leon Lett game was the first game, and then they went. The second game was a little closer than the first game, but Dallas pulled away in the second half against them. But the closest game.
But still, it's impressive.
Yeah, that is impressive to get
right.
four Super Bowls in a row. I don't know if we'll ever see that again. Let's look at his stats though. 5 Pro Bowls. 35.
And remember, he played 3 years or whatever USFL.
Yeah, he actually did not come till '86. So 86 to '96, we're going over a 10-year span. 35,467 yards, 237 touchdowns. He's a Hall of Famer. This guy, and he was tough. This guy took a beating a lot. I remember one Monday night game, the Steelers just throttled them. But, whenever the Steelers played them in the big game, like the playoffs, they had the Steelers' number. I think right there near the end of Kelly's career, the Steelers actually beat them in the playoffs. The year they went and played the Cowboys in the Super Bowl 30. It was 95. So that was a year before Kelly retired, and they finally got him then. But he would take a beating. The Redskins Super Bowl, they hounded him the whole night. And I don't know how he kept getting up, but that's a tough man. And, tough man to go through what he's going through now with cancer and to come out on top. He's still fighting, all respect in the world for Jim Kelly. Number 15, New England Patriots. How I hate saying that name. But this is back when they, we didn't have Deflategate, we didn't have Spygate, we didn't have this, but the Patriots take Tony Eason, quarterback out of Illinois, and not a bad pick. They had
he played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he started that Super Bowl, and he probably wished he hadn't. The '86 Super Bowl against Chicago, where they were totally throttled. It was 46-10. It wasn't even that close, if you can imagine that. New England had a long-time quarterback, Steve Grogan, who was probably on his way out. So they were looking to, get somebody ready. And Eason was the answer. I mean, he played till 1990. Never went to a Pro Bowl. Like we said, we went to the Super Bowl, though, where he got pretty much punished, and he didn't finish that game. I think early in the second half they put Grogan in, and Grogan was probably like, "Wow, I had a better seat on the sidelines." Ended up with 11,142 yards, 61 touchdowns. Not bad numbers, but he went to I think that Super Bowl really damaged him.
I got a nugget for you. You like it when I have these crazy nuggets, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. He has the distinction of being the only starting quarterback in Super Bowl history to fail to complete a single pass in the game.
Wow. I did not know that. I would say like
starting quarterback to not complete a pass.
That just tells you right there how dominant that Chicago Bears defense was that year. I mean, you look at that Bears defense, you had Otis Wilson, you had Wilbur Marshall, Richard Dent, what was it? Dan Hampton, Steve McMichael, Gary Fensick, Dave Dorson. I can name almost all of that defense because they were all pretty much Pro Bowl materials. You could have put that year, the whole defense for the Pro Bowl could have been the Bears defense. I mean, really.
Yep.
I mean, Mike Singletary. I mean, I can't leave Mike Singletary out because he was the leader of that defense. But yeah, that's not something you want to be known for. But Tony Eason has that distinction. We'll have to give him a call and see if he realizes he's the only quarterback to never complete a pass.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't know. He hasn't been reminded of that. Okay, let's go to number 16. Atlanta takes defensive tackle Mike Pitts. And let's see, 1994.
He played 12 years.
He played 11 or 12 years. Never went to a Pro Bowl.
Pro Bowls, though.
Had 48
years in the NFL is good.
48 and a half, and he's playing on the defensive line, so that's 48 and a half sacks. That's pretty good. That's not bad, but when you look at the guys that could, I mean, just like we talk about, Jim Kelly could have went to 11 other teams. I mean, you imagine Philadelphia or Kansas City instead of Blackledge takes Jim Kelly. That's what you got to look at here. Look at the back up a little bit and look. Mike Pitts, I remember his name, but it's not really sticks out like, oh yeah, Mike Pitts is, but I guess he was a consistent player. He lasted till, like we said, 1994. But
12 years,
doesn't really stick out. Let's go to number 17, St. Louis. That's back when it was actually the St. Louis Cardinals. And they take defensive back Leonard Smith. And he was around till 1991. Is this the same Leonard Smith that ended up with Buffalo? I wonder.
Yes, he did. With Buffalo Bills, he appeared in 2 Super Bowls.
So, he may not have had much success in St. Louis, but he definitely had some success with Buffalo. He finishes with 14 interceptions, 14 sacks. Defensive back finishing with 14 sacks over a 8-year period. That's not too bad. I remember Leonard Smith was a really good. They had a good secondary in Buffalo those years, and he was one of the key parts of that secondary. So may not have been a success with the Cardinals, but was definitely a success with Buffalo. Like you said, he went to some Super Bowls with Buffalo. Number 18, Chicago Bears take Willie Gault out of Tennessee. Willie Gault was a big track and field star. Fast as lightning. He lasted till 1993. Didn't finish his career with the Bears. I think he actually ended up going to the Raiders. But, definitely put up some good numbers.
Yeah, he held some world records in the 100-meter, 200-meter. But he's only the second fastest man in the NFL.
I wonder who was
first. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, I wonder who was first. I wonder why you threw that again.
I don't know.
Yeah, that was all. And the one we'll talk about later, that was always the big thing when they did the fastest man competition. It always seemed like it always came down to those two, and you always wondered if Galt would overtake him one year, but
and he had world records.
Yeah, but can you imagine what the other one would have done though?
Sure.
Let's see. He ends up with 44 receiving touchdowns, 6,635 yards receiving, and he ends up with a Super Bowl ring from the Bears from '86. And so they got two key guys the Bears pick up in the first round of this draft with Jimbo Covert and Willie Galt. Go to the next one. Next pick, number 19, the Minnesota Vikings. And they take a guy at USC that, I think is an underrated defensive back for his time. Joey Browner, defensive back from USC. He played till 92. Had a really, really good career. He was one of those guys that, 37 interceptions, 9.5 sacks. He was a tough guy, anchored that secondary. Ended up going to 6 Pro Bowls with the Vikings. Had a little success. They played your boys in the '87 NFC Championship game and had the Redskins on the rope that year. I know you were sweating bullets in that game, were you?
Was that the 17-10 game?
Yeah, that was a year the Vikings pulled a big upset in the divisional round against the 49ers. Right. Went to Kansas City when a lot of people thought San Francisco was the best team in the NFL that year. And they go and take down and beat them. I remember Wade Wilson was a quarterback for the Vikings that year, and he put up some big numbers that year. He went on to play with the Cowboys and didn't do as well with the Cowboys as he did with the Vikings.
They also got tackled on the 1-yard line with no time left to tie it up. I do remember that.
Was that the one where? Was that the one where Darrell Green broke out the pass in the end zone to the Nelson?
It might be, but remember the last play, they get tackled and pushed out of bounds at the 1-yard line.
Oh, okay, that may have been what it was. Okay.
So it may have been yep.
Go to number 20.
Okay.
The San Diego Chargers, their second pick of the first round, and they ended up with a little bit better pick this time than the number 5 pick with Billy Ray Smith. Gary Anderson, no, not the kicker, the running back out of Arkansas. That's 2 guys from Arkansas.
But with this guy here,
both of the Arkansas guys go to San Diego.
But this guy played for USFL, the Tampa Bay Bandits, from '83 to '85, and then came to the Chargers.
So he ended up playing till '93. Put up decent numbers. I can remember he wore number 40. The Chargers always had a really powerful offense back in the days of Dan Fouts and Don Coryell was the coach. Everybody remembers the famous Miami San Diego playoff game, and was it '82 where they overtime game. Kellen Winslow just left every piece of himself on the field that night, and the Chargers came out with a win. But Gary Anderson put up some decent numbers from '85 to '93. Had a versatile back because he had 3,409 yards rushing and 16 touchdowns, and then 2,999 yards receiving and 15 touchdowns. Went to 1 Pro Bowl, so he wasn't a bad pick. And he was there for a few years I don't know if he finished with San Diego or if he ended up going to...
He ended up going to the Canadian Football League.
Okay, so he
did San Diego Chargers, Tampa Bay Bucks, Detroit Lions, and the Memphis Mad Dogs of the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, so he kind of bounced around. So the next pick, number 21, my Pittsburgh Steelers. Defense, the Steel Curtain. Now you got to realize this is 83. The Steel Curtain days are coming to an end. Mean Joe Green's retired, so they're looking at trying to get Steel Curtain back. Steel Curtain version 2.0. And I look at this pick and I'm like, wow, what we could have had. What came after this guy? And he is nose tackle Gabe Rivera out of Texas Tech. Wow.
Well, the thing is, the rumors were, and I'm not going to say who, they were going to pick the hometown guy from Pittsburgh, who we haven't said yet.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about reasons why they didn't pick him either.
There was some reasons why, but there's crazy reasons why. I think of.
But they were going to pick the hometown hero that didn't. Think about that.
I don't think that. I think even halfway through this season, this guy ended up getting hurt, and I don't think he ever played again. 6 games was all he played. Got 2 sacks in 6 games.
Oh my gosh.
This started a trend with Pittsburgh having not good drafts. As good as the drafts were in the 70s, some of the 80s drafts and the early 90s were terrible. Chuck Noll.
Okay, so I know what happened to him. Rivera was paralyzed in a drunk driving car wreck during the season.
That's right. I do remember that. I actually think he passed away not too long ago. I may be wrong on that. I have to double check that, but
he died July of 2018. Yep.
Yeah, I seem to remember that. But you hate to see that happen, but you look at what could have been in this draft, and I'm like, wow, really.
He could have been good though. He could have been good.
You're right. You just look at what happened, and what you could have picked. It was right in your backyard. And it wasn't like it wasn't a need there either. I know there was a need at nose guard, but there was also a need at quarterback because
someone was retiring. Yeah,
Bradshaw's gone, right? And you've got Mark Malone and Cliff Stout as your quarterbacks. Wow. Let's go to number 22. San Diego Chargers. Gil Byrd. They take defensive back out of San Jose State. I will say this was not a bad pick for them.
Pro Bowler.
Yeah, 2-time Pro Bowler. San Diego has 3 picks in the first round. Now, you got to realize back then too, there was not 32 picks back then. We didn't have 32 teams. There was 28 picks back then. There was only 28 teams. So 3 picks in 28.
2 were Pro Bowlers.
2 were Pro Bowlers. Yep. And the last 2 were a whole lot better than the first one. The one picked
the 5th pick, yeah.
Gil Byrd comes out of San Jose State, plays till 1992. Like we said, 2-time Pro Bowler. How many games did he play in on this? Let's see. 149 games. 42 interceptions, no sacks. Ended up playing in the Chargers Super Bowl that they lost against the 49ers. And, was he there then? No, he was not there. I'm sorry. He was not there then. That's a bad
The Chargers
memory.
Shouldn't have been there either.
That's a bad memory for me. I can remember O'Donnell trying to throw that pass to Barry Foster in the end zone and come up short. Steelers blew that one big time. Anyway, Gil Byrd, not a bad pick from, like I said, 2-time Pro Bowler. You get it at number 22. I think he ended up pretty good. Let's go to Lynn's favorite team at number 23, the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. Jim Jeffcoat. I think this was a pretty good pick for them. He lasted for a while, played till 1997, so 14 years.
Played in the Buffalo Bills near the end.
Yeah.
But I think he was getting beat by the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he probably was kicking himself then, too. He finished up over 14 years with 102.5 sacks. He was a defensive end out of Arizona State. And you remember, Jeffcoat was, when Dallas had the big defense back in the early 80s up until Landry left. Jim Jeffcoat was one of the main guys up there. Too Tall Jones was on the way out. Jeffcoat. I don't think Randy White played much longer after he got here. I think White probably got out about 86 or 87. I think White was there 1 year. Well, maybe 89 because I think Randy White was there 1 year when the first year Jimmy Johnson was coaching, and I don't think he made it through the whole season. But Jeffcoat was not a bad pick at number 23. I think a lot of these teams up ahead of us would have loved to get a Jim Jeffcoat instead of what they got. But you
quarterback 5's coming up there. say.
You look at, and I'm looking at the Chargers picks here. Two of their picks, you know, one of the big things about the Chargers back then was a lot of offense and no defense. Dan Fouts needed defense.
Yep.
I think Dan Fouts was probably the best quarterback I've ever seen to never make it to the Super Bowl. I didn't say to win.
Oh, okay. You were. I
didn't say to win. I knew you were going to say
I know, because I was about to disagree with you.
I didn't say it. But you know what? Fouts, we'll have to look up Fouts' stats later on, because Fouts was right up there with that other guy, too. I mean, of course, he didn't have the record numbers like that other guy did, but, you know, Fouts was a good quarterback. I always liked Dan Fouts. Let's go on to the fifth quarterback picked in the first round, number 24 for the New York Jets, out of California Davis. Who's ever heard of that school?
The Aggies.
I've never heard of that school before, and I probably will never mention that name again until I talk about Ken O'Brien again. Quarterback Ken O'Brien played, 2 Pro Bowls for the Jets. Played till '93. Had some pretty good numbers though. I mean, I will. He had some weapons back then. You had receivers like Wesley Walker. Al Toon came later on for the Jets. So that's one of those names you don't hear too much. But Jets were pretty good back in the 80s. That was a good rivalry there with the Dolphins. But go ahead.
So you talk about YouTube. You go to YouTube and check Jets fans booing draft picks. This is one of the first ones where the Jets fans in attendance booed the selection because they wanted the number 6 quarterback. And I remember, if you go, it's hilarious. Like, almost every pick in the 90s are booed. I remember Kyle Brady is booed and all these other people. It's a hilarious YouTube clip of Jets fans booing their picks.
There's not
hilarious.
There's not, every year you knew that was going to be a thing, because it was always in New York up until a few years ago, and you always knew pretty much you got an 80% guarantee that they were going to boo their first round pick, no matter who it was. I think some of them.
Well, this reason they had a chance. This year they had a reason. Sorry, they had a reason this time, because they should have got pick number 6, quarterback.
Yeah,
6.
well, I mean, there's a lot of. I would say maybe 1, 2, maybe 4 or 5 picks ahead of that last quarterback that a lot of fans could have booed their picks for. So, I mean, not just a Jets fan. I know Pittsburgh could have booed their pick if they'd known what was coming.
There's only one team that can't have booed because they couldn't pick until after.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So, let's look at O'Brien ends up with, not 25,094 yards passing, 128 touchdowns, 98 interceptions. Played in 2 Pro Bowls, so not bad stats for him. But you just compare them to the ones that came after him, and it's no comparison at all. Number 25, one of my least favorite teams, the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals are coming. They had been to a Super Bowl a couple years before, lost to the 49ers, so they're looking to get their offensive line going. They picked Dave Remington, center out of Nebraska.
Never heard of him.
I remember him, but it was probably just because we played the Bengals twice a year, and I remember seeing that name. And he played for a while. He wasn't anything to write home to mom about, but 6 starts. Not much to say really about that pick, but he lasted till 1989. So the guy after
that last year,
I guarantee Cincinnati would have loved to switch picks with the Raiders, because another center comes at number 26 for it was the Los Angeles Raiders then. Don Mosbar, center out of USC, and as much as we haven't heard of Remington, I do remember Mosbar. Mosbar lasted till 94. Went to 3 Pro Bowls. Ends up winning a Super Bowl with Oakland or LA, whichever one. It was LA.
His first year, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was the first year because they beat up on a certain team I won't name.
Following year, yeah.
But it's 38-9. I won't name the team.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah,
I remember.
I do too, because I
got the tape to prove it.
Yeah, yeah. But not a bad pick there. You get a 26 pick. You get a 3-time Pro Bowler. Looks like he's played in 62 games. Let me see. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. Let me see. 16 games. Am I looking at this right? Maybe I need to look at this a little bit quicker. 62 games. I'm right. All right. Let's get to this next pick, because this is the one we've been talking about all night. This is the one we've been talking about all night. Number 27.
Okay.
Miami Dolphins. They get a steal at number 27. They take Hall of Fame quarterback and pretty much record-breaking quarterback before he retired. They had every record in the book just about. Dan Marino out of University of Pittsburgh. Right in my Steelers' backyard, and we did not take it.
Here's the thing that I found out. Like, that last college year, he was going into the last college season as the best quarterback, going to be picked number 1 overall, and then he had a horrible senior year. Horrible for him.
Yeah.
And then what blows my mind, there's this rumor.
Yeah, I remember.
That Dan Marino has problems with recreational drug use. And this blows my mind, because the Dan Marino I know and recreational drug use, I don't know how that ever went together.
Yeah.
But Pittsburgh Steelers was going to draft him. Heck, a lot of teams were going to draft him. And because of that, they passed.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there was some Miami people that didn't plant that rumor out there, because that's unreal to believe Dan Marino would be somebody that would use recreational drugs. And maybe he did, but you look, if he did,
he stopped.
He stopped, evidently, because, wow, what a career he put up. 61,361 yards passing, 420 touchdowns, 9-time Pro Bowler. Of course, he's a Hall of Famer. You just look at these numbers and you're like, wow. And he didn't waste any time. His second year, he gets to the Super Bowl, which they lose to the 49ers and Joe Montana. And you just think at the time, though, wow, this guy's he's gonna get one before it's over with, which he never did. One of the worst things.
Never makes it back.
Never even made it back to the Super Bowl. And you look at it, that was his best chance, I think, but they never really had the defense to back that offense up. And name me, if you can, a running back that played while Marino was there.
Without looking it up, I cannot.
Okay. So no running game, which may be why he had so many numbers, but he had great receivers. Mark Duper and Mark Clayton, they were unreal. That 84 year, Marino's second year, I can remember somehow Steelers get to the AFC Championship game with Mark Malone as a quarterback. And we get totally throttled by Miami. And I was like, wow, this guy is awesome. Was actually pulling for him in the Super Bowl. I don't pull for Miami all the time, but I didn't like San Francisco either. But Marino, I actually like Marino as a player. Great actor in the Ace Ventura movies. Should have got.
Also, I'm giving him the qualifier.
Huh?
Academy Award, Oscar. He should have won an Oscar for that.
He should have won for that betrayal anyway. When the chewing gum.
Earlier, you said. I forget who it was. He said, this quarterback is the greatest quarterback never to go to a Super Bowl. And I was like, what are you saying? But then you said never
go to a Super Bowl.
Dan Marino is the best quarterback never to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'll go along with that. I mean, that's definite. The closest Fouts ever got, I think he may have made a couple of AFC Championship games. I remember the 82 year after they beat Miami, and you're out there in Miami, it's hot, it's hot and humid out there, and then you go to Cincinnati the following week and play in what was called the coldest game ever. I think it was 40 below wind chills that day, and the high-powered San Diego offense puts up 7 points against Cincinnati. Lost, I think it was 28-7, 26-7, something like that, and Cincinnati goes on to the Super Bowl. The next pick.
The worst thing.
Go ahead.
Before we Marino's last game, tell me about it.
His last
You
game.
remember Marino's last game. It was in the playoffs against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, yeah.
And the Dolphins got beat 62-7.
I do remember that. It was a
his
sad
last
ending.
game of his career. I hate that. His last game ever, 62-7.
Sad. That's a bad way to go out for Marino, but by no means. I mean, true Hall of Famer, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. Let's go to the last pick of the first round, the Washington Redskins. And they picked Mr. Redskin, we call, number one on our top 10 list, Darrell Green, out of Texas A&M, Kingsville. Wow.
Texas A&I.
One of my favorite.
Texas A&I.
One of my favorite Redskins ever, and one of my favorite players ever. I'll go there too. 7-time Pro Bowler, ends up with 54 interceptions and 1 sack. I wonder who he got that.
I don't know when he did that.
Again. That would be something we have. That should be one of your nuggets. Who did Darrell Green get the 1 sack against? I'm
going to have to try to find that out. Hall of Famer, too. He was only 5'8" and weighed 184 pounds.
Now,
can you imagine that? 5'8".
We were talking, when we did the top 10 list, we were talking about the game against the Cowboys where he chased Dorsett down. And I went back and watched that game. And I was watching, listening to the guys talk on Monday Night Football, because this is actually, or was it? It was I watched a preseason game with the Redskins that year. One of the talk that they were talking about with Darrell Green was, in preseason, was the announcer talking about how one team had targeted him so much they were picking on him. And the announcers, and to listen to it at the time, and to think about it now, and they're talking about, well, this is who they're going to pick on. I'm like, wow, you're going to pick on Darrell Green. It's amazing to look at the career this guy had. He played in 295 games over his career, which lasted till 2002, and all with the Washington Redskins. That's why we say Mr. Redskin, and definitely the best Redskin we thought to ever play for the Redskins. Well,
that 1 sack was in 1988, but I cannot find out who he sacked. Okay, it was 1988.
88. Guy that the big play for Green, besides the chasing down Dorsett, was the punt return against the Bears and the Browns. And he did not break a rib. I look back at that game. He strained ligaments, is what they were saying. Strained ligaments, pulled something in there. So, what I saw when I looked it up. But let's look up. We're not going to go, of course, we can't go pick by pick through the whole draft. We'd be here all night.
Pick and choose, right?
Yeah, because you had, like we said, you have, 335 total selections. So we can't go through that, but we can give you an idea of who was in the second round. This draft ended up with 7 Hall of Famers. Not all of them were in the first round, and there was a lot of players that got picked late that were, I'm looking through my list right now. The Rams get
Roger Craig, man. Roger Craig, 49th overall.
49th pick, 4-time Pro Bowler.
I was about to say, yeah.
And one of the big reasons is, excuse me, one of the big reasons that the 49ers win those Super Bowls. Look at a guy like the Rams get a Henry Ellard in the second round. He's 32nd. He ended up playing with the Redskins. Leonard Marshall from the Giants. He goes 37th. Darryl Talley with Buffalo, 39th. Let's see.
I'm going to be biased here and say Charles Mann for the Redskins,
Yeah.
84th pick. Multiple Pro Bowler, Charles Mann.
Looking at, he was down at 84. And I'm looking at some of these Pittsburgh picks. I mean, second round, we pick a Wayne Capers. Never heard of him after that. Dave Dorson. Look at the Bears. The Bears got really got key guys for that 86 team in this draft. Dave Dorson was one of the leaders of that defense, and he goes in the third round to pick 64. Then you look at the second round, right. Mike Richardson, he was one of the big guys in that defensive backfield for the Bears. Buddy Ryan definitely had the Bears picking his way in the draft this year. Let's see, looking at...
I'm way far down than you, but round 7, we talked about this guy earlier, Craig James.
Yeah.
He was much better than a 7th round pick.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy it waited to the 7th round for Craig James because him and Eric Dickerson were SMU.
Oh, yeah.
Who actually beat Dan Marino in the Cotton Bowl, I believe, 7-3 or something. I was looking that up. So they played each other before this. But Craig James was much better than round 7.
Well, I'm looking at some of these guys' picks, and I've got up here. Some of these guys never...
Kelvin Bryant. I remember Kelvin Bryant from North Carolina. He went to the Redskins in the 7th round. Kelvin Bryant was good.
Kelvin Bryant ended up, he's a big star. He's out of Tarboro. He was a big star at Carolina, and he gets picked, but he ends up playing in USFL, playing for the team I pulled for, which is probably one of the reasons I pulled for him was the Philadelphia Stars. He has a big career in USFL, stays there till 86, and then goes to the Redskins, and he's a part of that 87 Super Bowl championship team. Look at this. Yep. At pick 197, Gary Kubiak goes to Denver.
Oh.
Everybody knows who Gary Kubiak is. He was a coach for the Houston Texans, coach for the Broncos. So, that they get Elway and Kubiak that year. And I'm looking here, pick 203, and we keep talking about the Bears probably had the best draft out of anybody. Pick 203, another defensive player, future Hall of Famer Richard Dent gets picked at 203. He ends up
round 8.
Plays till 97. Didn't finish a career with the Bears, but he ends up with 137.5 sacks. My Lord, in the 8th round.
Oh, wow.
Let's see.
I see somebody in round 12 that I know. Round 12, pick 310, Carl Mecklenburg. Do you remember him?
For the Broncos, long time defensive player for the Broncos.
Yep.
Here's one that may not have been known much for his playing career as his coaching career. In round 9, tight end Mike Mularkey. He goes to round 9. Yep. And here's one for your Redskins ended up having. He made a Pro Bowl as a kicker. Ali Haji Sheik. That's a name from the past.
Gosh, I remember him.
Yeah.
Let's
see.
If we're going to do kickers, you remember Reggie Roby?
Yeah, he's a punter for long-time punter for the Dolphins.
Yeah, he's in this draft somewhere. I can't find him now, but
Tim Krumrie, long-time nose tackle for the Bengals. He goes to 2 Pro Bowls, and I remember one of the worst injuries I ever saw was Krumrie in the Super Bowl. Was it 88 against the 49ers? Oh, he fractures his leg, and I mean you can just see it dangling.
Worse than Theismann?
Probably because you saw it more, but because he wheeled around, he got spun around when it happened, and it already fractured. And when he spun around, you see the leg just
flopping or something. Oh,
yeah. And by all means, the guy that was in the first half, he would not go to the hospital till the game was over. He stay there and watch the rest of the game in a
wow
on a cart, I guess. I'm seeing one here in the 11th round. That was big for the 49ers. Jesse Tupolo is the center for the 49ers. Big part of the Super Bowl teams. Went to 2 Pro Bowlers. That was in round 11 at 289. Let's see. I'm going. Wow, what a name. Bucky Scribble.
I have one that's an undrafted player, and this shocks me because I didn't know this is how it happened. The Washington Redskins signed an undrafted player, Nate Newton.
Oh, yeah.
Located in Washington Redskins. But he didn't play for the Redskins.
Never played. Ended up playing with
the Cowboys.
And
he did USFL, I see.
Yeah, Nate Newton's big, of course, Cowboy, long time.
He was cut.
Yeah, offensive lineman for the Super Bowl teams at Cowboys. But I can remember the sad story was he got caught with a lot of marijuana in his vehicle after his career with the Cowboys was over. Got a lot of trouble for that. I don't know if he's still in jail or not. Some of the guys that were not.
He played with the Panthers.
Yeah, he did. He did. Some of the big names.
Yeah, besides Nate Newton, who else? Yeah.
Let's see. Bill Bates, longtime safety for the Cowboys. Mark Tuinei, defensive tackle for the Cowboys. Zeke Mowat. I don't know if you remember him or not, Lynn. He was a tight end for the Giants. Big dude. I mean, we've got some guys that were not.
Which is crazy. After 12 rounds, there were still people
that were
who did well.
Yeah, that were able to play. I mean, they were able to have NFL careers. But
you're naming Pro Bowlers right now. You're naming Pro Bowlers. So.
Yeah. And it's 83 draft. That year, which Super Bowl champions that year ended up being the Raiders. You're an MVP of the whole NFL. Washington Redskin quarterback Joe Theismann. Your offensive rookie of the year was, of course, Eric Dickerson, the running back for the Rams. Defensive rookie of the year, and where did this guy get picked? Vernon Maxwell, who went at the first pick of the second round to the Baltimore Colts.
Yep.
From Arizona State. And then your defensive player of the year was Doug Betters from the Miami Dolphins. So,
wow.
Big year. Like we said, quarterback heavy year. This is always remembered as a quarterback draft. And, you just look at some of these guys that got picked, and it's a head scratcher. But at the time, it seemed like good picks for this team. And that's how it is with every draft. And we'll talk about these other drafts. We like we said, this is the first in the series we're going to do. 83 was the one that stood out with me. That's why we picked the 83 draft first. It always remembers the Marino, the Elway. I think that was a 30 for 32, wasn't it, Lynn?
It was, yep.
So that's one you need to. We talked about 2 30 for 30s. Our ESPN, we want our money. We're plugging you up here.
Yeah.
You got the Pony Express and the Elway to Marino. The Elway to Marino one. So, but guys, this is, like we said, first of a series we're going to do. We're still working on some of our top 10 lists, and I've got a big one coming up, the Steeler one, which we've got a guy working on it right now, and like I said, this is going to be really, really hard for me to do. But like it was for Lynn, it was hard enough for me to do the Redskins and the Raiders. I can't imagine. I was talking to the guy the other day.
Have some honorable mentions.
I was almost tempted to do top 10 defensive players and top 10 offensive players.
Oh my God. He would do that. He would do that with you.
Well, he told me, his comment to me was, I can think of 10 on offense right now. And my problem was the exact opposite. I can think of 10 on defense. Because I'm thinking, how am I going to put one of these guys to the side? It's going to be tough. It's going to be brutal. I do not look forward to that, but we'll have it up here anyway.
I look forward to listening to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be really tough for me to narrow it down. I'm still going back and forth on a lot of guys, but
I still want to do a top 10 Tar Heel basketball player.
Well, we will definitely get in that the basketball season, we will definitely do that. That's going to be a tough one.
We can even have him join us on that if you want to. He's a big, he went to UNC as well.
We'll bring everybody in on that. There's a lot we're going to do. And like guys, I've been talking about big things coming for the Final Score. And I know y'all keep saying, why is he teasing like this? But I can't let the cat out of the bag yet. But come September, everything will be you'll know everything. I'm excited, really excited about it. But can't let the cat out of the bag yet. But we'll be back and we'll do another draft show. Lynn, did you watch the preseason game the other night?
I did not.
Yeah, it was not much to watch. It was football, but it was not much to watch. Baltimore, Chicago.
I saw the highlights of RG3 though. Yeah, I wanted to see RG3.
Yo.
And he's wearing number 3. It looks so weird. He's not wearing the number 10. I'm like, dude, just put the 10 back on. I
think that is pretty much
fragile.
That's much a tryout for another team. I don't think Baltimore will keep 3 quarterbacks.
No, they'll keep. Is it Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson did well, and of course they're their main ones. So.
Lamar Jackson has, he's a rookie. He has ways to go. One of the things that was he still got some issues. I'll put it that way. The interception.
He's a rookie.
Yeah, I know. And the interception he threw, he telegraphed it so bad. That defensive back jumped that route so bad, but he was looking at the guy the whole time. And that'll come with time. But Flacco, he's on the hot seat right now. And the rest of the NFL starts on Thursday. I know Redskins play on Thursday night.
Patriots.
Steelers
Brady for like one series.
Steelers go into Philadelphia to play the Super Bowl champions Eagles. So I know that crowd will be rowdy. The first game they've had in Philadelphia since the Super Bowl. So not a chance we'll see many starters this week, I don't think.
I can't get excited on the preseason until the third preseason game.
Well,
because that's when it's like the dress rehearsal.
Yeah, preseason is pretty much, like I said, a tryout for the later round players to see where they get, if they end up with that team, or if they end up with going to another team. And we'll see how that works out. But looking forward to, I'm sure Pittsburgh won't be on anywhere where I can see Thursday night, but NFL Network carries all the preseason games eventually, so I'll get to see them there. I'll watch the Redskins.
Let's want to pay for Game Pass.
Yeah, no, not.
You can pay for NFL Game Pass. Why would you do that to watch out-of-market preseason?
Yeah, I'm not paying for out-of-market preseason games. It'd be different for.
Yeah.
And regular season, Pittsburgh plays a lot around here anyway. So, Well, Lynn, it's been great again. I think we did a pretty good job tonight.
I enjoy it.
And we will definitely we'll work on the next draft. We'll have to decide which draft we want to do next.
We'll talk offline on that then.
Yeah, we'll figure out another memorable one to do. But and you know what will probably even better if we do a crappy draft and just talk about Jamarcus Russell with the first pick. Yeah. I'm gonna have to go back. I'll have to go back and look at
Al Davis will draft anybody who's fast. He had a stopwatch in his hand. If the guy ran fast, he'd pick him.
Well, yeah, and one of these drafts, and I'll have to look back at it, and I want to say it was after Willie Gault. Everybody remembers track and field star, probably one of the biggest names that ever come out of track and field, Carl Lewis. Carl Lewis was taken in a draft. And I want to say, and I may be wrong, it was by the Dallas Cowboys. And I think it was after Willie Gault. That'll be something we talk about later on. And I'll have to find, maybe that'll be the next draft we do, just so we can talk about Carl Lewis. But I do remember that.
You let me know.
Yeah, we'll get with you on that. Guys, as always, it's been great. I love talking football. I love talking most of sports. Football is my baby. And then Lynn does a good job helping me out. I appreciate you, Lynn. And we'll definitely do this again. Like I said, down the road.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple more weeks, we'll talk about another draft.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, guys, thank y'all for listening tonight. And we'll see you next time on The Final Score.